When we experience someone rude, we should remember that maybe they aren't a rude person. Maybe they're a stressed person who's being rude. Let's look at how to respond to a mean person, ways to deal with rude people, how to respond to rude comments, and then how to assess the risk of responding. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and the bell to get notified when we post new videos. You don't want to miss any of them because we have some really good ones coming up in the next few weeks. Today, let's talk about how to respond to a mean person, 10 effective ways intelligent people deal with rude people. If you've ever driven during rush hour traffic or waded through a crowded store, you know all too well that rude people are everywhere. Whether it's an insulting and rude comment or a dismissive attitude, rudeness is pervasive. All too often, this negativity from mean people rubs off on us. You can't control someone else's behavior, but you don't want to be provoked by someone's ill-mannered attitude. So what do you do? When confronted with toxic behavior, whether it's coming from a crotchety stranger, a social media troll, a grouchy coworker, or a snappish friend. Here's some tried and true methods that smart people use to effectively handle rude people. 1, realize that rudeness is nothing new. Rudeness seems to be a part of human nature. We've been complaining about it since the beginning of time. Plato famously ranted about disrespectful and ill-mannered youths. Rude behavior can easily become a habit for many people. We often simply overlook or forget the importance of showing kindness, sympathy, and understanding to others. Rude behavior is catching. It tends to trigger more negative behavior. But if we can see that these negative behaviors hamper our productivity, our happiness, and our health, we can recognize the importance of putting a stop to such conduct. Rudeness is nothing new, but that doesn't mean we have to continue the cycle of meanness and anger. Secondly, stop the spiral of rudeness. Rude behavior can spread like a disease if you let it. One act of rudeness can easily spiral and cause other acts of rudeness, spreading foul tempers and poor behavior in its wake. It's easy to see how this happens. A rude driver cuts in front of you on the way to work, causing you to feel annoyed and frustrated. You take those negative feelings out on your office mates when you find yourself snapping at your coworkers for no real reason. Your coworkers, feeling miffed, are then grumpy and rude to others. And so it goes. You have it in your power to stop that cycle of rudeness and end the negative situation. With a little empathy, you can diffuse rudeness with kindness. 3, don't take rudeness personally. This one's hard. The first step to stopping the cycle of rudeness is to stop taking a rude person's behavior personally. We all have bad days when the world seems to be beating us down. It's all too tempting to take it out on the world, which really means taking it out on the person nearest to you. This happens to all of us, so realizing that the offending and negative person may just be having a bad day can put things into perspective. They may be dealing with something difficult when you just happen to get in their line of fire. Often, you can break the cycle of rudeness by avoiding responding to bad behavior with your own negativity. 4, react to rudeness with kindness. Don't let a rude person cause you to respond with more of the same hurtful thing. One of the best ways to diffuse rude and negative behavior is to stay friendly and positive. This gives the other person a chance to calm down and adjust their behavior to match yours. Kindness can be a wonderful antidote to rudeness. Showing kindness to someone who's being surly or insulting to others can be extremely difficult, but by setting a calm and well-mannered example, you can prompt them to follow your lead. If this doesn't work, you can take pride in knowing that you didn't lower your standards or add your own rude behavior to the mix. Instead, you maintained your cool. Fifth, you can use humor to diffuse a difficult person. A rude and difficult person can create tension and anxiety in themselves and everyone around them. Remember, they're probably being rude because they're angry or upset about something that they're going through. Humor can create a diversion and break the tension, allowing everyone to just laugh it off. Now, you can do this by finding a way to laugh about a common situation or by joking about a shared experience that you can relate to. Another way is self-deprecating humor. It can also be very disarming. Finding a way to insert a little levity when someone's feeling out of sorts may be just the thing to help everyone hit the reset button and begin again on a better note. 6, call the person out on his or her behavior. Another tactic to stop the spiral of rudeness is to simply call them out on their behavior and ask them to stop. If someone you can't get away from is consistently rude to you, you need to address the issue directly. There's no need for you to take ongoing abuse from anyone. You should never allow anyone to treat you in a disrespectful way. Have a conversation about what's going on. Does the person realize how hurtful his or her actions are to you? Perhaps the person doesn't realize how rude he or she is being. By just making the person aware, it gives him or her a chance to apologize and to try to be more polite. 7, don't escalate. When someone annoys you, your first instinct may be to lash back. But remember, you always and only you have control over yourself. Choose not to give in to the drama. No matter how another person acts, you own your behavior, just as they will have to own theirs. Keep your cool. Take a deep breath. Give yourself space to calm down if someone has upset you. Remember, you don't have to stoop to their level, and doing so will probably only make matters worse. Maintain your dignity and rise above the fray. 8, show empathy and sympathy. Showing empathy requires you to try and understand why the person's being rude. Perhaps that person is dealing with a difficult situation in their personal life, or they're feeling overwhelmed by deadlines that are piling up at work. If you can find a way to show that you understand and care about them and what they're going through, they'll feel more connected and less alone in their struggles. If you know someone's having a difficult time, let them know that you understand. Don't judge them for having a bad day or for snapping at others. You might find a way to mention that you've had rough days too, and you can relate to how that person's feeling. If someone is having a momentary lapse in manners, this may help the person become aware of their negative behavior. I don't think any of us wants to be rude. If the person gets angrier, then just let it go. There's nothing you can do to force someone to behave. 9, be a good role model. People have all kinds of ulterior motives for acting as they do. Recognize that some people use rude behavior as a way of showing dominance or displaying power. They may be trying to provoke a reaction and make you look bad. So don't let them have the satisfaction of seeing you get angry. By being a good role model and treating everyone with fairness, kindness, and empathy, you are displaying the kind of behavior that you would expect from those around you. If they can't show you the same level of civility in return, it may be time to enlist the help of others. 10, avoid the rude person. When all else fails, keep in mind that sometimes it's best to just walk away. If you've done all you can to make this person aware of his or her actions, and you've tried to show kindness and empathy, it may be that this person is just incapable of treating you and others with politeness and good manners. By avoiding habitually rude people, you take away their audience and you give them fewer targets to lash out at. A lack of an audience will also diffuse the situation. If everyone around them begins giving them a wide berth, Perhaps it will be a wake-up call. And if not, it will at least help everyone else have a better day. Are you facing rude people at the office or dealing with a rude person? Well, give us a shout out in the comments below and tell us your story. We'd really love to hear about it.
So let's talk about how to respond to a rude comment at work. Consider your own emotions first, then try to see the other person's point of view. Most people have experienced instability at work, anything from a rude customer or a snippy boss to ambiguously curt emails from otherwise friendly colleagues. To handle these situations, address your own emotions first and ask yourself why you're feeling offended. Then weigh the pros and cons of calling the person on the rudeness. Finally, use language that deflects the blame from the other person and focuses on the behavior, the effect of the behavior's effect on you, and that helps to establish shared norms. You're trying to help a customer get a refund on a product they weren't able to use. When it takes longer than they'd hoped, they lose patience and ask if they can talk to someone who's competent enough to deal with the issue. One of your students' parents responds to your email explaining that their child needs extra support that you can't provide with something like, "Isn't this your job, or is actually helping students above your pay grade?" In a meeting, you offer a solution that you think can help your department make up for this quarter's budget shortfall. Your usually friendly counterpart on another team responds shortly, "Well, I'm not sure why you think that idea would work." Whether comments like these are made over social media or email or directly to your face, they sting. No one deserves to be on the receiving end of rude, belittling, or mean behavior at work. Even actions that aren't intended to be hurtful or are ambiguous can cause stress and harm. Yet, according to research done by Georgetown professor Christine Pora, 98% of people report experiencing instability of work at some point in their careers. When it happens, most of us are left wondering, what should I do? On the one hand, responding, especially in the heat of the moment, can escalate the situation. On the other hand, allowing hurtful comments to go unnoted can condone the behavior and seemingly give the person or others who witnessed the incident permission to mistreat you in the future. Staying silent might even send the message that it's okay for others to behave similarly, leading to a toxic work environment. Though the decision to say something or let it go is yours, it's really helpful to have some guidance on making the call that's right for you. So as we go along, I'm going to give you some advice based on research and interviews with my clients, some social scientists, and then some other experts as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about start with yourself first. First things first, right? It's normal to have an emotional reaction when you're on the receiving end of a rude comment. You might feel hurt, disappointed, offended, upset, angry, frustrated, exhausted, or a mix of these and other feelings. It's important to both examine these emotions and get a more objective sense of what happened. Accept your emotional response. One common response to emotional pain, especially at work, is to try to tamp it down by chiding yourself. This is just in my head. But it's not. The sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me adage simply isn't true. I certainly had my breath taken away by some mean-spirited comments that felt like the person had just punched me in the stomach. In fact, neuroscience shows that in certain instances, the brain interprets the impact of being devalued, ignored, shamed, yelled at, rejected, or bullied in ways that are similar to the experience of physical pain. So give yourself time to investigate your emotional response before deciding what to do. If you're dealing with a customer and you don't have an hour or a day to step away and deeply reflect, try taking a few breaths while identifying what you're feeling before you react. Also be kind to yourself and validate your feelings. Research has established that self-compassion brings a myriad of benefits, including a stronger desire to grow and improve, higher emotional intelligence, and deeper resilience. It also makes you more compassionate toward others. Remember that rude is relative in most cases. While we can likely all agree that the first two examples above are mean-spirited, the third is a little more nebulous, like many of the comments or behaviors that we're subjected to at work. We may not know what the person intended, and how we interpret a curt message or a short "it's fine" response may be different from how another person would see it.
Interpretations of incivility can also vary widely across cultures. In the US, for example, asking to speak to a manager might be seen as rude, but that behavior could be considered acceptable in the Netherlands or Israel, where open disagreements are seen in a more positive light. So as you decide how to respond, consider whether the rudeness may have been unintentional. Is it possible to interpret the person's actions in a way that leaves you feeling less insulted? I'm a big believer in using empathy to see another person's behavior in a more generous light. For example, the parent in the second example above is likely worried about their child and channeling their concern through anger at you. It can be helpful to even express that empathy. More on that below. It can also be useful to think about your values and which of them might have been violated. Perhaps your client's jab challenged your sense of fairness or equity, or it felt like a microaggression. Or maybe the customer raising their voice doesn't align with your belief in kindness. Regardless of whether the person meant to be rude, your emotional reaction is valid. Understanding how you feel and why will help you decide whether to respond and what to say if you do. Assess the risk of responding. Once you better understand your emotional response and consider the other person's perspective, you can weigh the pros and cons of responding. Ask yourself, what are the risks of speaking up? Addressing rude behavior could challenge the status quo in your organization, especially if your company maintains a customer is always right ethos, and may impact your relationship and standing with your coworkers or boss. To gauge how risky speaking up would be, develop a specific picture of the danger you're facing. Think about the questions below that we're about to ask, and if time allows, perhaps you can vent the situation with someone you trust. If the person is a customer, ask yourself, do I feel comfortable risking the sale? What are my company's policies around responding to rude behavior? Will my manager or other higher-ups have my back if I decide to say something? If you don't know this person well or at all, do you have a sense of whether they're likely to badmouth you to your manager or influential leaders in the organization? How might they hurt your career prospects or reputation if they wanted to? If you know this person, how do they normally respond to being challenged? Are they generally self-aware or open to feedback? Will they be dismissive? You're overreacting, I didn't mean anything by it, or get defensive. What are you accusing me of? Do they have the authority to affect decisions around your raises, promotions, or bonuses? Can they block your ideas or hold up your projects? What are the risks of not speaking up? We often focus on the risk of actions, our minds going directly to the worst case scenario rather than the downsides of not doing something. So take time to consider the risk of not speaking up as well. Perhaps not addressing the behavior would violate your personal values or the cultural norms you stand for. You might inadvertently condone the comment if you let it pass unremarked, or miss an opportunity to help the person understand how their actions impact others. Give these concerns equal weight in your evaluation. If you are in a position of influence, the risk of silence are greater. Leaders bear the ultimate responsibility, in some cases a legal one, for making sure no one, especially frontline workers, feels threatened at work. Making the call to let something go sometimes can be a smart move, but that doesn't mean that you have to swallow your emotions. You might need to vent about the incident to a friend or find ways to emotionally disengage from the situation. For example, you can find ways to bolster your mood after the interaction, spending time with colleagues you enjoy, listening to a favorite song, doing a short meditation, or looking at pictures of your recent vacation. There are also several concrete actions you can take, instead of confronting the person directly. For example, you might report the incident to someone who can take action, or at least keep a record should the behavior happen again. If the offender is a client, for example, your manager may want to know so that they can avoid working with them in the future. Or is there someone else in a senior position who will want to help and has the power to do so? Then you should know what to say and when. If you do decide to confront the offender, how you do it matters and can make the difference between resolving the situation or intensifying it. Keep the following strategies in mind. Consider the timing. Snapping back at someone may feel good in the moment, but it's often helpful to take the time you need to calm down. Process what you heard before reacting. A smart rule of thumb is to prioritize your safety and well-being. It may be that confronting the person may encourage further harm, though do keep in mind that experiencing discomfort is not the same as feeling unsafe. It may feel awkward to point out to that customer raising their voice isn't helping, but that's not the same as fearing they'll physically hurt you. Use I or it statements. Oftentimes people don't realize they've misstepped. So when you confront them, make it clear that you found their comment to be rude by either explaining why or sharing the effect it had on you. Use statements that start with I, which explain how you feel to the other person so they consider your perspective, or it, which establishes boundaries that is not okay to cross. Sample I statements include, I felt dismissed by your comment. While that may not have been your intention, that's how it landed with me. And I see how you feel, and I'm hurt by what you just said. Here's some example responses to establish a boundary. It's disrespectful to tell people their ideas don't have merit. And that comment isn't helpful to either of us. Avoid use statements such as, you're rude. When people feel ashamed, attacked, or mislabeled, they're less likely to hear you or change their behavior. Ask questions, especially if the comment was ambiguous. It can be effective to respond with a question like, what did you mean by that? You might even ask the person to simply repeat what they said, which may prompt them to think through what they meant and how their words might sound to others. Try asking these questions with genuine curiosity and start with what instead of why, which sounds less challenging. What led you to say that is easier to hear than, why did you say that? Which can sound like an accusation. Here's some other questions you might use. What was your intention when you said? What specifically did you mean by that? I'm not sure I understood. Could you say more about what you meant by that? Did I hear you correctly? I think you said. Have set responses at the ready. It's easy in the moment to feel unable to respond or to find plenty of reasons not to say something. I don't want to cause a stir. It's not a big deal. They're usually a nice person. To counter the instincts to stay silent, which you may later regret, it helps to memorize and rehearse a few go-to phrases that you can use when you do encounter rudeness. For example, I imagine that was not your intention, but that hurt. Or I know we all care about fairness. Acting in this way undermines those intentions. When you're facing a situation you don't have a ready response for, you can try a simple technique that I picked up from authors W. Brad Johnson and David G. Smith, which is to say, ouch, clearly and forcefully. This will buy you some time so that you can come up with something further you want to say, and it sends the signal that the other person's actions had a negative impact, giving them a chance to reconsider what they said. Show empathy. It's probably the last thing you want to do when you're on the receiving end of meanness, but kindly showing the person that you understand their concerns can often help smooth out a tense interaction. This isn't required, especially if the comment could be categorized as a microaggression. But in a situation with a client or customer who's responding out of frustration or anger, acknowledging that you see their perspective with simple statements like, I get that, or I understand, can calm them down some. Remember that recognizing the emotion behind their behavior isn't a tacit endorsement of their behavior. You can grant them their premise and ask them to treat you differently. Anticipate defensiveness. The best case scenario is that the person hears you and even thanks you for feedback. But in my experience, they're more likely to get defensive, at least at first. A customer might dismiss what you're saying or claim that you misunderstood them and their intentions. But if they've caused pain, it doesn't matter whether they had good intentions or not. If they accuse you of being overly sensitive or defend themselves by saying they didn't mean any harm, make clear how their statement or question affected you. For example, you might say, your comment, however you meant it, made me feel like you don't respect me. And be sure you have an exit plan. If you're handling a customer, this might mean completing the transaction with them as quickly and efficiently as possible. If addressing the incivility causes the other person to double down on their comment or even to escalate their behavior, make sure you have a few statements ready to help you get out of the conversation. For example, you might say, I need to take a break from this conversation. Or, let's press pause on this for now. Or, I'm going to finish checking you out so that we can both move on. Form a coalition. If the rudeness is part of a recurring pattern, you might enlist help from others in responding. Join forces with people on your team or in your company and make an explicit pact to respond to incivility when it happens. When a customer is being rude to you, it can often take the heat down if a coworker intervenes on your behalf or even takes over the interaction. Having a coalition can help you gain clarity as well. When something troubling but ambiguous happens, you, along with everyone else in the group, will have a sounding board to help determine whether it warrants action. All of these tips, I hope, will help you in diffusing and dealing with rude and ambiguous comments and people. Are you dealing with a rude coworker or boss? Or you have an overloaded workload? Or just trying to get off the hamster wheel chasing success? You should join our private community. You can find more information by clicking on the link in the description below. We have a great group of people who are part of this great community who will be there to support you, and I'm sure you'll be there to support them in return. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget, hit that subscribe button and the bell to get notified when we post new videos so you don't miss any of the great videos coming up. So subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you there.